Every child learns differently, so why should education be one size fits all? Welcome to Choosing School, the podcast where families talk about how they've chosen education paths that work best for their kids. I'm your host, Jody Underwood. I started EdUpt to help families explore the range of education options across New Hampshire. In each episode, we bring together real parents with real experiences, sharing what they tried, what worked, and what they wish they'd known earlier. Welcome to our podcast of moms who started microschools. Today, we're going to welcome 3 moms who started their own microschools in New Hampshire. So what are microschools? And if you don't know, you're not alone. They go by different names, including learning centers, co-ops, pods, and they're actually all around New Hampshire. And if you go to the edupt.org website, you can actually see that by using our filters. So anyway, they have a range of approaches from full-time drop-off programs to 1-day, 2-day, 3-day, 4. They might just offer classes. They might act more like a co-op. Parents may be involved or they may not be, and each one operates differently. The one big thing is you have to officially homeschool your child to use them. And what I can also tell you is microschools are opening all around the country. It's a growing phenomenon, and that's true in New Hampshire as well. And as I said, but most people haven't heard of them. So our goals today are to introduce you to microschools in general, meet the moms who started, some moms who started their own microschools, so you understand this valuable education option for your own use, but also to encourage you to start your own microschool if that suits you. I can tell you that we had a microschool in the Upper Valley where I live for a couple of years, and they had waiting lists, but they had to close, and so for like life got in the way, and so now we're missing a microschool. So if anybody wants to open one, especially after you listen to these 3 women's stories, you can get in touch with me, and we can help you along with it. So I am going to invite all these ladies to the stage. And I am going to ask each of them to briefly introduce yourself, your name of your microschool, and where it is. And so, Kitty, I'll ask you to go first.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me on here, Jody. My name is Kitty Michelati, and my learning resource center is called Latitude Learning, and we are in Derry, New Hampshire.
Heather?
Hi, my name is Heather Long. My microschool is called Wildcat Microschool, and we are in Haverhill, New Hampshire.
Hi, I am Diana, and I am the co-owner of the Learning Cove NH in Bow, New Hampshire.
Great. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm really excited about this. So, I have a few questions that I shared with you beforehand, and we'll try to break it down, but if you go into stories, that's okay too, and we'll figure it out. You'll probably have things to, respond to each other, and that is all welcome. So first, what made you start a microschool? What problems were you trying to solve? And so, Diana, I'll ask you to go first.
Sure. So my daughter was in public school through 3rd grade. She struggled in reading. We went through the whole IEP process. She still wasn't having her needs met. They weren't following through, unfortunately. And someone that my daughter does competitive gymnastics. Somebody that we know had a microschool already. And I started learning about them. I had no idea what a microschool was at all. I started working for her. In the following year, my daughter ended up starting at her pod. Went there for 1 year before myself and the another person that I'd worked with at the microschool decided to create our own because we had so many ideas and we worked amazing together and wanted to bring our own dreams to the forefront.
Great. I see Kitty smiling there. Why don't you hop in with your story?
So I was lucky enough to get chosen by Sharon Osborne to start Latitude together. Our kiddos had been homeschooling together for a long time, and there had been a program where you could bring your kiddos for individual classes, and we and it was closing down, and our kiddos had both really loved it, all really loved it. And she approached me and said, "Hey, we can do this. Let's do it together." And I said, "Okay, great." Um, and it was just as a response to the homeschool community's needs of really wanting a place where parents could drop off or stay, and kiddos could take classes they were interested in that they may not be getting elsewhere, but take them in person with their peers who are interested in the same thing, but not necessarily separated by arbitrary ages, just separated by interests. And then additionally, they also wanted to hang out in between classes and just have a place to do lunch together, recess, play games, other things that they wanted to do in between classes. They were making friends in the classes saying, "Wow, you really love Dungeons and Dragons as much as I do. Let's go outside and hang out on the swings." And so it just kind of grew from that.
So also more
Kitty,
like a community center, not just a learning center in that sense. Yeah.
Kitty,
Yeah,
can I
that's
say I've
what
heard
it
amazing things about your center?
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. How about you, Heather? What's your story?
So I actually started out as a school counselor. I was 100% bought into the public school system. I thought it was the way to go. My own kids were, well, I should say my oldest was in public school up until about third grade. And then the pandemic hit. So when COVID came around, especially as a school counselor, I started to really question some of the things I was seeing. I did not feel like the social distancing or the masking was what was in the best interest of kids. And when it came down to my own kids, I wanted something different for them. So I started talking with some other families that felt the same way, and we decided to start a homeschool co-op. And it was really just meant to get us through the pandemic. So we had a group of kids that we were in the basement of one of our houses. We hired a young teenager to kind of do school with them. They were doing BLAX, so they were using BLAX for their online learning in the morning. And then in the afternoons, parents would take turns covering the afternoon, and we would each bring our own expertise to it. So whatever we were interested in. It was really cool. We had one parent that was really into rocket science. So he did a rocket project with the kids. And, I would do some of my school council and stuff. Another parent was really into history and government. So it was pretty neat. It wasn't perfect though. It was tricky. We all had our own jobs. It was pieced together. It was hard to keep, where I said we had a younger girl hired, it was hard to keep someone there. So once things seemed to be somewhat back to normal, we disbanded. We sent our kids back to school. I was still working as a school counselor. But I think that experience made me start to question some of what I was seeing in the school system. I was very much always a systems thinker, and I wanted to make the system better. But I started to realize that it's really hard. It was really hard for me to make the system or help change the system how I wanted to while I was in it. And felt like my kids were being sacrificed within that system. So the following year, I think we lasted about a month. My oldest was in fourth grade at that point. He really liked to be able to learn at his own pace. He liked the comfort of being in a home with a small group of kids, and was struggling when we were back in public school. It wasn't working for him. And at the same time, I had heard about Prenda. So this was when Prenda was in the state and we could take advantage of it for free. I went to a Prenda meeting and just thinking maybe there would be a Prenda pod that would pop up nearby that I could send my kids to. During that meeting, I remember at one point being like, wow, I wouldn't mind doing this. It sounds like a great job. And I was joking, but I said it out loud. And one parent looked right at me and she said, if you do this, I will sign up my daughter. Like, she's signed up right now. And I left that meeting. I couldn't stop thinking about it, that it was really something I wanted to do. Started to have the conversations with my husband. And within 2 months, we decided to, as a family, make the jump and leave the public school system. And I started a microschool. At that point, I just had I think 4 other kids I started with. By the end of the year, grew to 8. I have 27 students and partner with a couple other teachers.
Wow. Well, you might as well, go around and, what are your numbers and, how is that working? Just quickly. Diana, you want to jump in with that?
So we ended this, our first year at 21 kids. for our first year.
All right. This is your first year. That's right. And
Yes.
congratulations on finishing your first year. That's great.
Thank you.
The
Kitty?
first year is a lot of fun. I mean, they're all a lot of fun.
So it was a lot of, we loved this, we'll continue this, and a lot of, okay, we're going to do this different next year.
Oh, nice. Lessons learned. Very
Yes.
good. Yeah. And Kitty, how many kids do you have? Sorry.
When we started in 2019, I believe we had right around 30. And then this past year, I think our enrollment was about 120.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
they don't all
something.
come every day. They come, some kiddos, on any given day, we have about 50, 55 kids in the building. So it just kind of depends on the day. They can come 1 day, 2 days, 4 days. You know, it depends on what they choose, what classes they're interested in, where their friends are, really.
Right. So tell us more about your program then, Kitty. Like how does it work?
It sort of looks like school in that it can be a drop off. Everybody arrives 9-ish. As the semester goes on, people tend to arrive earlier because they want to hang out. And we end around 2:30-ish. We have 4 classes throughout the day, 2 classes, and then a 20-minute break, and then another class, and then an hour-long break. And then our final class of the day is about an hour and 20 minutes, and every other class is about 50 minutes. We have some after-school programs like Girl Scouts or plays some are student-directed, some we have adults come in and direct. We have Makerspace. And then that's about where it stops looking like school. Kiddos, while they're in class, some classes you're allowed to eat unless you're dissecting squids. If you need to use the bathroom, just go ahead. Let us know. If you don't feel like being in your class that day and you want to go hang out in the quiet space or go into the young child room and read some of the little kids' books or go outside, have at it. As adults, we have a lot of flexibility in our schedules, and we know if we're having an off day, we might need to bring a cup of tea into the office. We try to start that young with these guys. They come in, they need a cup of tea, they need a bottle of water, they need a hug. We got it.
That's great. Heather, you want to tell us about your program, how it works?
Yeah, so we operate out of our houses. I partner with 2 other women. We keep our kids in kind of closer grade level age groups. So we have like a kindergarten through 4th grade group, a 5th through 6th, and then 7th grade up. We're just graduating into high school with our kids next year, which we're excited about. So the kids rotate between our houses. We use online learning tools for like self-paced learning tools for math and ELA, and some workbooks and, kind of independent curriculum for the kids. And then the rest of our day is mostly project-based learning. And then we also just share our own expertise. I have a forest classroom near my house, so I like to bring the kids out to the forest classroom. One of our teachers had been a science teacher, so she's always doing science experiments and STEM activities. And our other teacher has a little homestead, so she's teaching the kids about the animals, and she's very involved in 4-H, so she brings that to teach the students as well.
Right. And so did you already say this and I missed it, but you're no longer doing Prenda, right?
Yeah, I didn't say that. Yeah, no, we decided to move away from Prenda. Prenda was great for us to get on our feet, but after a few years, we felt like we could do it independently, which gave us some more choice in what we wanted to do as well. We do partner with the National Microschools Center, which is a great organization that provides support from everything to if you have questions about legal issues or insurance to helping us get programs at a more available cost.
Wow. Yeah, great. How about you, Diana? What's your program like?
So we are a drop-off. Drop-off starts at 9. We start our curriculum at 9:30. We have a daily schedule where we do our learning goals. We provide a base curriculum, an online portal, along with books and hands-on learning. That being said, some kids work better with different curriculums. So kids are allowed to bring their curriculum to us, whether it be workbooks, another online platform, whatever they find that works best for their family, they can bring to the center, and we will provide the support they need. We are a 2, 3, and 4 day option. So we run Monday through Thursday. Some parents want to come in 2 days a week and homeschool the other 2 days a week. So whatever is, we want it to be the most flexible for families. In our actual center, we feel more like a family of homeschoolers. We have a quiet space for kids that really do not like the noise, where they can sit in there. We have couches, just a whole bunch of comfortable seating, and it's just quiet. We also have a reading specialist that comes in twice a week for the kids that are a little bit delayed in whether it be reading, comprehension, and she comes in. And again, that's taking that off of parents' loads to have to go out and find a tutor after school hours. So she comes in twice a week and helps the kids. We also have we have a game room for recess when we're not outside on the playground. So it's just flexibility in what works best for each learner.
Great. And I assume you all charge tuition. It's interesting. I asked about your program and none of you mentioned tuition. But I'm sure that's an intricate part of it. You want to tell us how much it costs, how that works, and whether you accept education freedom accounts and how that works, and things around there. So Heather, would you like to go first?
Yes, absolutely. So our tuition is $6,000 for the year. And I forgot to say, we're also a 4-day program. So we run Tuesday through Fridays from 8 to 2. And we do accept EFAs. Most of our families take advantage of that opportunity. And it's just been a great program to help keep it affordable. I think a lot of my families would not be able to afford any alternate option without the support of the EFA.
Diana?
Sure. So our 2-day option starts at $275 per the month. 3 days is $400, and our 4-day option is $525.
And you go per month, not
per month.
a yearly basis.
And we do accept EFA. We're a direct pay vendor, which just like Heather had said, is so important for homeschooling families that would not be able to afford it otherwise.
Great. And Kitty?
So we're a little bit more complicated. We run in semesters. So we have 2 semesters. One is September through December, and one is January through May. And for those semesters, each day of the week has a different set of classes. So Monday you'll have certain classes, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on. So if you choose to sign up for Monday, you'll have roughly a 15-week semester. And so for one day, it's $750, which turns out to be roughly, I think, less than $50 a day. So if you were to go for 2 days, it would go up incrementally, just depending on what you're doing. If a mom or dad chooses to come teach, we have a tuition exchange. And we do accept EFAs. We are a direct vendor. And we also have tuition exchanges for other things that need to be done around the community, whether it's tech help or front desk work or paperwork or cleaning or all the things that you might need in any space. We try to do an exchange, and we have a few scholarships available as well.
Nice. So can you talk about the organization itself, like from the business side? Like, what did you have to do to start this organization? Kitty, if you want to start that.
Sure. So as I said earlier, Sharon Osborne chose me as her partner, and she's honestly the genius behind all the business parts. We decided to become a 501c3, and that just required filing some paperwork. You have to have a board of directors with a minimum number of people on it, and you have to have certain meetings. As far as what we're doing for a space, we rent a former daycare on the Parkland Medical Center campus in Derry. And so we've got about 5,000 square feet there. And so we have rent for that and all the rest of it. We use online organizational tools for scheduling and signing up for different events. Like we had a poker tournament, and you go on to our online thing and people can sign up and come in. And then as far as most of the rest of the business stuff is mostly handled by Sharon.
Okay. Heather, how about you?
Yeah, so I've kind of taken on the business side of things for my microschool. I was really scared and overwhelmed about that at first, but honestly, it has not been that difficult. I decided to go the route of opening up an independent LLC. Considered becoming a nonprofit, but decided not to, where we run on such a small scale. It would have seemed like a lot of work to be able to do that. It would have had the benefit of being able to accept some grants and funding, but we're so small and we operate out of our houses. The thought of having a board seemed like, I don't know, giving up that control was a lot, and didn't want to go that route. So kept it simple as an LLC. I'd say, that the most difficult thing is figuring out, billing and invoicing and all of that. But even so, it just takes time. It's not difficult. I've recently discovered how AI can be a huge resource for this. So I use Claude to do all my invoicing and help draft some emails. And that has been a huge time saver. But I would just say, for any moms that are thinking about it, when I talk to other people that want to start microschools, this is a part that usually overwhelms them. And it's not hard. I'm always willing to help people, as I'm sure you guys are too. Anyone in the business, we want to see other microschools open up. So we want to help each other get started.
Mm-hmm. Nice. How about you, Diana? Yeah.
So we are a traditional LLC. We rent a 1,400 square foot space with several different rooms, as I spoke about earlier. So I would say I was very overwhelmed in the beginning as well. I did have a little bit of background in, billing, but not much. So it was really just learning as I went. AI is absolutely amazing for helping with different things. Our biggest issue, and I remember talking to Jody about this before, so I did look up what the bill was, Jody. Our issue was zoning where we were located. So it was, New Hampshire doesn't know how to define microschools, learning pods, and they didn't know that we could go in the location we were in. So we had to go to town meetings, pay fees. It was very stressful. There's currently a bill in the works. It's HB 1050 from Representative Alexander out of Goffstown. It has not passed yet, but that would eliminate the zoning issues for learning centers, microschools, learning pods in New Hampshire, which would be phenomenal. So if you guys want to look it up, HB 1050, support it, because I think we could all benefit from that. I see Kitty saying yes. It's huge. So
Kitty, do you have anything to say? Yeah.
Oh boy, howdy. We've been in 3 different districts. We started off in Manchester. Briefly, we were in Chester, and now we are in Derry. And Derry is wonderful. But yes, the zoning, they have no idea what to call us. And if you dare say the word school or education or anything like that,
yes,
just the tagline, or you don't want to say daycare either. There are certain words that you say to these inspectors, and all of a sudden bells and whistles start going off. And so what we learned the hard way was to describe ourselves as a karate studio, because they have different rules. And that is, honest to goodness, more what we are. We are just a drop off providing a lesson, and that's it. We're not a school. We're not even, we're a resource center. And so we had to learn very quickly, although painfully, going through all those meetings. And then we had issues at one point where we did not have enough handicap parking spaces, even though we were renting and it was not our facility. We had to go to town meetings and pay fees, and So it can be a nightmare. Zoning is massive. I had no idea about this bill. Thank you so much, Diana. I will be making
You're
phone
welcome.
calls because that has been one of the biggest things is like when you are trying to figure out where to set up, yes, you want to go where the people are, but holy zoning problems.
Yeah, they wanted to
Wow.
keep calling us an education center school, right? Because that was the only thing that they had to put us against. And I'm like, we are
Right.
not a school. We're not a
It's not us.
school.
Right.
I
I mean,
would-
yes,
Right.
we are a micro school, right? But we are not in the same category. It is a learning center for homeschoolers.
So this is
yeah,
why I don't like the term micro school, honestly. Like,
Right.
I think people should stay away from that, even though that's what we're calling this
Yeah, and
podcast. But
when you were talking about the parking, they had to know how many parking spots, even though we said repeatedly, parents will be there for like 30 seconds. They are dropping off, they're leaving. We are a full day, They're not there. And it was still an issue. So very stressful. So I am really hoping this bill goes through for
Yeah.
other
And
families.
I just would add too, like I didn't come across any zoning issues. We operate out of our house. However, insurance was similar in that when we were trying to get insurance covered, I could explain exactly what we do and they would cover us. But as soon as I said the word school or education, that was it. They were gone. So we technically, like my LLC is not Wildcat Microschool, it's Wildcat Learning Hub because we didn't have the word education or school in there. So I think that's a good piece of advice for anyone starting out.
Absolutely.
Stay away from education, school, academy,
Nice.
any words that sound like a school.
Right. Wow.
We're
And then the
not.
daycare thing.
We're not.
Say again. Sorry.
And we're not school. So I think it's okay. But I think that for parents, they like to see the word school sometimes because it makes sense to them.
Yes. Right. And even this podcast is called Choosing School because it's homeschool too, right? The word is in there and it's how everybody thinks about it. Yeah, I agree. But somebody mentioned daycare also. So that's something else to be aware of, right? You don't want kids under the age of 6 because then there's a whole bunch of other rules that you have to follow and they're very stringent as a daycare center. If they're under 6, you're automatically a daycare center, right? Although except for a karate school, right? I mean, they can have younger kids. So I love that analogy. And it's funny too, because I like to think when I think about teaching and learning, I love using sports and dance and those kinds of things as examples for how you should teach, where you look at each kid individually, even though you're teaching a whole group, you coach them, you do all these things, and you don't see this so much in the classrooms anymore. And Heather, when you and I talked, you mentioned something about, wow, I feel like we're getting closer to school and you have these meetings where you remind people to not do that, which is fast. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So, and maybe some of this is more so because I came from the public school system and so didn't one of our other teachers. But a lot of our families did too. So, we frequently have conversations where we have to remind each other, hey, you're starting to do that schooly thing. Like, and the kids will tell us too, as soon as we do something that feels more traditional, like we get caught up in that we have to do it because it's what we know and it's what we've experienced. It's what we grew up with. Or some parents will even say like, well, why aren't you doing this? This is what I did as a kid. But when we do those things, the kids balk at it and they're not engaged. They're not happy. So if we don't remind each other, that the kids will remind us. I think it's important that we give ourselves the ability to shake things up and to teach in a different way and to pay attention to what's working for the kids and really let them drive their education.
Yeah. And this is why I think microschooling and homeschooling is so beautiful because you do get to do it differently for every group of people, right? Depending on who they are and what they need. It's one of the reasons I'm a proponent of all of this stuff. So jumping to, I mean, it's related to stuff you've talked about, but what maybe other than the organizational stuff, but what big problems or considerations have you had? I mean, you mentioned some of the organizational problems, but anything else like lessons learned after a year, right, Diana? Do you want to think about that?
So I think ours was just scheduling, how we wanted to schedule our day, because again, you don't want to be on a strict regimen because this is not like a school. We are a learning center that the kids are doing their own curriculum. If they need to get up and take a break, they take a break. You need to go move. Just tell us you're going to the bathroom. It is not regimented. So finding a schedule that works for the kids, I guess, has been our biggest hurdle. Finding something that is the most beneficial for them and the most productive.
Great. I see nods. Do you two also have problems with scheduling? Kitty?
Not so much with scheduling. We kind of came right out of the gate knowing we were going to do X amount of classes each day, and that the kiddos would have flexibility within those classes. They can switch around their classes up to the first 6 weeks, and then after that, it's up to the teachers. Oh, I don't feel like coming to your ovenless cooking class, Miss Kitty. Can I go outside and play games with Mr. Daniel? Yeah, check in with Mr. Daniel, see what he says. And that happens a lot in the spring. So that wasn't too bad for us. I found that, especially with us being a community and then such a large community and having homeschoolers really do enjoy having a say in what's going on, parents as well as children. And sometimes parents would come to me and say, you should, or we should. And I would say, if it's something you can do, go for it. If it's something you feel the need, we should have more people at the playground during recess time. Wonderful. By all means, come on in, head down to the playground, hang out with the kids, hang out with the parents, make some new friends. That's great. Or, well, we should make sure these things do happen or these things don't happen. And a lot of times the biggest part of what I do is saying, thank you for your opinion, but no, thank you. You are welcome to go ahead and create your own thing. This is what we have created. This is what I will protect. These are the lines I will hold. I have pretty strong boundaries. And while people may not agree with my boundaries, they appreciate that they're strong and that they're set. So at least they know where they stand and where I stand. And if we don't work for you, that's okay. We're not meant to work for everybody. This is why we need so many microschools or other learning opportunities, because not one thing is going to work for every kid. I have 3 boys, and last fall, the fall of 2025, my 3 boys were attending 8 different learning opportunities. Everything from Manchester Community College to the Russian School of Math. They were everywhere and all over the place. And that's just my 3 kids. I can't imagine attempting to put all of New Hampshire's kids in one spot. It's not going to work for them. And so I'm okay if Latitude doesn't work for everybody, because it's not supposed to. Some people need more than what we offer, and some people need less chaos, and some people love us. So holding that line is what keeps us unique and what keeps every different opportunity unique. If somebody came into a karate studio and said, I'd really appreciate some tap dancing classes, karate studio would kind of look at you and be like, no, go elsewhere. So that's, sometimes I have to say no.
Right.
But that's been our biggest struggle. And most surprising, I guess, is like people come in and like, wow, this is really great. You should change it this way. And I'm like, no.
Right. Yeah. Diana, didn't you have a similar thing where you were in the microschool you used to work in? You just they weren't doing it the way you thought it should be done, right? Was something like that?
So I actually implemented a lot of stuff while I was there. But my partner, Don Woodward, is the co-owner of the facility I'm with now. We both worked at 2 different locations for the same microschool. And we just decided that she was so good with the younger kids. I am better with the older kids. I do a lot of the marketing. And so we knew we could create something that would be really special for the community. A lot of stuff that we want to implement that we have this past year is learning ASL, just different things that we can do because we are now in charge of it. We are not working for someone else. So we just have these visions that now we can make to fruition. So that was really important to us.
Great. And Heather, how about you? Challenges?
So I'd say I can kind of think of two. The biggest one that comes to mind is just the financial aspect of it. We've really decided to keep our tuition low to make it affordable for our families. I think we need to where we live. A lot of that cost goes into our daily operation, cost for programs, cost for supplies. And then where we operate out of our houses, just general wear and tear in our houses, because there's a lot of kids in and out of them. Everything from, we have to drain our septic much more often. So, it's not something that I look at as like I'm making a living off of this career, as much as I look at it as I'm homeschooling my own kids. I'm providing this great opportunity for my own kids. And I'm going to invite some other families to join in and get a little extra income to help. So as long as I look at it in that frame, then it's okay. And our other challenge, oh goodness, I was thinking of it and I forgot it for the moment. So it'll come to me later. But, overall, there's been nothing major. It's been such a great shift, I'd say personally for me and for my family, that I haven't looked back. It's not something I would ever question.
Nice. And I'm reminded of something you said before. There's this movement toward unschooling for homeschoolers, right? And the biggest challenge is the adults learning how to unschool, how to not do the things that they've always done, right? And so, having a microschool is not quite unschooling, right? But it's still breaking away from that model, and it's hard. We've just all been trained in that realm. So people should realize that. Yeah.
Well, and I would add for me, and I think this is really important as a mom, I was always under the mindset of, I had to work. I had to have a career. As my family, when I was a kid, I was pushed into college. I was pushed into the career world. When my babies were born, I was back to work within a couple weeks. It just seemed to be like what I had to do. I wanted to be a career woman. And all of this has helped me question that, really my kids should come first. My family should come first. I am much happier being home with my kids than I was before.
Bravo.
I had to let go of some of that mindset as well to get to where I am.
Very nice. So I want to know if there's anything we missed that you wanted to talk about your, each of your experiences. Anything else popping out for any of you?
So one of the things that I see that people are often nervous about when they start a microschool is not having enough kids. And how am I going to market? How am I going to gather families? And I have found that you don't really need to. You might start out small, and I think you need to be okay with that. But word of mouth travels fast. If you're doing what's right for kids, that word of mouth is going to get out there, and you're going to have families knocking at your door. And I think I heard someone mention they had a wait list. We've had a wait list for years. We have families that beg us to come. I guess that would be another challenge, is having to turn people away. I don't want to turn families away, but we can't grow too big, because then we're no longer able to do what we want to do.
Anybody else? Any other thoughts?
I think speaking to Heather's point on, having to unlearn some of the things we all learned as young women of, you should have a career and a family and do it all. And I think one of the beauties of homeschooling and community is seeing that some of these mamas are teaching, human anatomy and physiology. And every once in a while, their toddler comes in to check in and say hi, and then runs back out and goes and plays with the other toddlers. Having a community of women and children together is so healthy. And how, as a species, we were really meant to be young and learning and growing together, that I think it's a really good message to send to this next generation, that there are other options other than you have to go to work, you have to do this. It's like, no, you can work together with other moms and really create something that's better for children than the alternative, where you're forced to work and you don't see them very often. And maybe you have a conversation over dinner, but maybe you don't, because you're also still going to sports and getting home late and traffic and blah, blah, blah. I think it's my not so humble opinion. I think it's a really great way to raise kids and build natural communities based on the certain, I don't want to say moral agreements, but like you have the same ideas of what you should be doing with your families, and the kids end up thinking, oh, well, there's another thing that's normal. And it doesn't necessarily mean getting up and leaving at 7:30 and not seeing mom and dad again until 8:30 at night. And I love the fact that you guys have a homestead that you even get to incorporate in there. Like that's a whole nother piece that kids may not be learning, where their food comes from, how to grow it, how to be responsible stewards of the land and really take care of their own nutrition and their own food. Like that's what an incredible gift for them. That's really cool.
I would like to just touch on the fact that, running a micro school is so much more than a business, because we have families that come in, and the stories you hear from, public school didn't work for us for this reason. And it is so heartwarming to know that these kids have an outlet that they can feel comfortable in, they can feel heard, and still get the education that they need. Every day is more rewarding than any business could ever be.
Nice. I mean, my last question to you all was any advice for people either in choosing a micro school or in starting one themselves? And maybe you've already said it, but if you have anything.
So as much as I just said, I have really strong boundaries. Appreciate feedback too. Every year at the end of the semester, we put out surveys. We do one for parents and one for kids. For anyone from Latitude who's watching, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say this out loud. I ignore the parent ones and I read the kid ones. And that's how I take a look at what they want to learn, because the parents are going to sign their kids up for what they think their kids want. I'm going to be in a classroom with a bunch of kids whose parents signed them up for cursive, and I have 5 kids who really, really want to learn cursive. And then I have these other 6 kids who are like, this is stupid. My mom made me take this. I don't want to waste those 6 kids' time or the other 5 who really do want to learn it. So that's where, and the kids really did ask for cursive. And so I give the kiddos who really wanted it as much instruction as I can. And those other 6, I'm like, what else during this class period? Like, what else would you rather be doing? So I'm not wasting time. So appreciating feedback, especially from the kiddos when they tell me, this class is cool or this class is lame. I think one of the greatest compliments we've ever gotten, and I think they all worked together. I think that it was a conspiracy or a mutiny or whatever you want to call it. But I read a bunch of surveys one year and they all said, this needs to be a sleepover school. Make it like Hogwarts. And so my solution to that was to do a sleepover, or what we call like a lock-in. And I don't actually lock the doors, because a lot of kids were freaked out about that. I was like, I'm not going to lock you in. This is me. But we do a sleepover. Nobody sleeps, but there's, Nerf gun battles and midnight grilled cheeses and movies and games. And we played one game where one mom wrapped a bunch of prizes in cellophane, and you play hot potato with it, but everybody has oven mitts on, and you're trying to unwrap cellophane with oven mitts. This is hysterical. This is a wonderful game. I highly recommend it. And so we have a sleepover once a semester, and the kids are very happy about it. So feedback is a good thing, but take every piece of feedback with a giant grain of salt and figure out if it fits with your heart and your mission, or if it doesn't. Sleepovers are in, rules are out.
To jump on board with that idea, I think education is collaborative, right? It should never just be the teacher deciding what to teach and how to teach it. There should be feedback between parents, educators, students. I think it really is a community effort.
Great. Diana, last thoughts?
I agree with Kitty and Heather completely. I think the thing I loved most about when I started the micro school, and even just with my own daughter before I started, is I knew what she was doing all the time. I knew what she was learning. When she was in public school, I never knew. I'd say, "What'd you do today?" And you never really got that answer. So now I can jump on the portal. I can look in her workbook. I know exactly what she has learned. And I think that's one of my favorite things, is just knowing what my child is learning, because most people don't know that if you're in the public school.
Right. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you all for joining me on this is our second podcast. So yeah, I'm thanks again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Choosing School, where you hear about real education choices and real family stories. Learn more at edopt.org.